Hey guys, so I wanted to go ahead and talk with you about the Expedition. It actually has been quite a while since this has been on the channel, and it's been overall a decent vehicle, but we're going to talk about a few things that have been done to it and ultimately how it's aged over the time that we've had it. So I want to first talk about the repairs that have been done on it, a couple of them being actually this year, and then we'll talk about ultimately the driving characteristics and how it's behaved. So the first thing that we want to talk about is what's been repaired on it. So the first thing that has actually been the most obvious is the engine. The engine actually had that common oil burn-off problem through the spark plug, so we had to actually get that repaired right when we got the truck. That's actually how the Camry came into the mix. So my sister's Camry, the white Toyota that's now in Japan, or not Japan, Italy, that is this truck's engine blowing up is the reason why that car is in the family. So long story short, because this had to be rebuilt, they needed another car, so they got the Camry instead. But this one also had the AC redone. The belt actually, the serpentine belt and the AC belt actually seized a couple years ago. And then after that, the AC clutch went bad. So the truck has a new air conditioner unit, new belts and stuff like that. Runs great. The air conditioner still blows nice and cold. I actually like the older ACs better because they actually like blew cold versus other vehicles where it doesn't do that. You'll have to excuse me. I'm trying to find out where that rattling is coming from. So good old Ford quality. However, I'll talk about the actual quality issues in a minute. Oh, it's my cup doing that. LOL, it's not Ford. So let's go ahead and also talk about a couple other repairs. The differential has had to be replaced, or not replaced, redone just because it had a leak coming from there. And it actually may need to go back and have that done again because it is leaking yet again. On top of that, the other thing that's been repaired on this vehicle is, where was I going with this? The transfer case. The transfer case was actually shredded, and that is why the 4x4 light was stuck on in one of my previous videos. So let's go ahead and talk about how it drives. So it is a slow vehicle. It's not fast by any means, but it actually gets the job done. It is a V8 5.4 Triton engine. It is the less powerful one, so it didn't make 30 more horsepower until 99. This one's actually a 97, so this is the less powerful Triton V8 that came in this generation. And then it is mated to a 4-speed automatic transmission, which has been known to be kind of reliable in these particular Fords. There have been some issues with them squeaking after second gear, and then on top of that, other models have been stuck in first gear. We actually had the latter happen to us a couple times when it was really hot. However, it seems to have resolved itself after a transmission service, and since then the transmission's been behaving fine. The torque converter does lock up in third gear, and at certain RPM ranges when the air conditioner compressor kicks in, it actually kind of whistles as you can hear. But it will shift up to fourth gear. And what's good about it is as the torque converter remains engaged, the engine has enough torque to actually take off in those higher gears, so you don't need to downshift as much. It actually is pretty nice there. On top of that, resuming off of a turn or like resuming acceleration, it does a really good job. For example, I am just getting to the stoplight that just turned green, and it was a smooth transition to second gear with no real bump. And then now it's behaving like it normally should, and it doesn't feel like I'm struggling to get off of that previous acceleration or that previous slowdown period. So it does a good job in resuming accelerations. It's very smooth, very linear. It is a smooth ride, however, it is a little bit bumpy due to the fact that we have certain tires on it. And then on top of that, just because the suspension is aging, it is going to start getting a little bit older. I just said that so stupidly. The suspension is aging, so it isn't going to absorb the bumps and potholes as well. So you're going to notice that it's going to get a little bumpier over time, but it's not going to be anything that's going to be obnoxious. Like, it's not going to basically have you thrashing around in your seat like a car with no shocks will. So eventually the suspension components will need to be replaced, but overall, over the last 23 years, it seems to have done really well. The interior is held up quite nicely. And as you can see, even though the seats are leather, the only one that has actually been giving us an issue is this one. Just because we slide in and out of it so much. And unfortunately, the motor for the front seat going forward and back is actually broken, so it's going to need to be replaced. But yeah, as you can see here, not too bad. Shifts smoothly. Engine is sounding nice. Not fast by any means, but gets the job done. So your lockup clutch, and then ultimately your shift up to 4th gear. So this does have an optional overdrive as well, so you can turn it off. I usually leave the overdrive on just because I'm usually traveling around that 45-mile-an-hour mark. So granted, with the California drivers moving here, it's been a little bit less, but I usually leave the overdrive on anyway because the truck, as you notice, will not shift up to 4th until about that 40-mile-an-hour mark. So it will just kind of stay in that 3rd gear, which is direct drive, and we'll kind of go from there. A lot of slippage in this transmission compared to the newer ones, however. As you can see, it doesn't really take off too well. The RPMs are a little bit bumpier, whereas the newer cars, they are pretty uniform just because the torque converter is engaged so early. But direct drive, not really necessary on this unless you're towing something, which in that case, a lot of times you can put in like a torque converter lockup clutch switch. But overall, it does pretty well. Not the best on gas by any means, but gets the job done. So the road is a little bit bumpier, as you can see. It's getting a little bit harder to keep the camera steady, but again, it is riding on a truck platform. The suspension is old. Ooh, so that's something you're gonna have to deal with there. But now, I'm in that 4th gear. If I need to accelerate, the truck is having no issues actually getting up to speed. And that's like when I put only a 3rd down. Didn't downshift, didn't need to, didn't disengage the lockup clutch. It did actually a pretty decent job just getting up to speed there. So, overall, not bad. Alright, you guys, well, this is the Expedition. It's going to be staying in the family for now until my parents figure out what they want to do next with their car life. Have a good one.